Sup, my name is Ryu for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Council, and since there was no top 10 this week, I wanted to still deliver you a top 10. Welcome to top 10 budget decks of February 2016, March 2016. Reason I put it for both is because we're going right into March. We're not that far off, and I'm not even sure if it's actually coming out in March or February, so I wanted to make sure that, hey, I'm ready for you. I'm ready. So these are my picks for the top 10 budget decks. If there's something you feel I left out, put it down in the comments below so other people can see it. And that way when they come and they're like, hey, I got money, but not tons of money, I want to build a Yu-Gi-Oh deck, here we go. So, number 10, going to kick off with Synchrons. Now, Synchrons, many of you already know, are one of my favorite decks to run because they're still amazing in the combo. When they take the Maxi Challenge, they take your opponent to school. They say, hey man, how long you want to sit here for? And if card destruction was legal, it would be a fun ass OTK to do, but you can't, well, FTK. Is it? Nope. Basically, you would just mill out your opponent because they would draw 26 cards and then you just play card destruction. How evil would that be? But that's besides the point. Synchrons right now, as it stands, can go Quasar, they can go multiple Synchrons, multiple Synchros, and they have the flexibility across builds. You're not just stuck down to one, hence I just say Synchrons in general, but we're talking about Synchro focused. And that pretty much involves Junk Synchron, Quick Draw, what's the new one? Jet Synchron. It's not that new, but still. And then, so there's that. But I personally think that they were one of the best, and I wanted to put them at number 10, because everything else needs a little bit more spotlight. My number 9 pick is Dynamis. If there's ever a Pendulum deck that just came out of the gate and said, hey, look, I'm pretty good, it's Dynamis. Water power, man. Water power. There's plenty of tech cards you can run in the main deck, and everything's extremely cheap and pretty much only costs you $40 to build. Now, some of you are probably instantly going, $40 to build? Dynamis? But they're level 5, there's level 5s in there, man. I'm going to have to play the Cyber Dragon Infinity. True. You can play Cyber Dragon Infinity in here, but he's not mandatory into the extra deck. You could just play number 61 with the Gaia. That's a lot cheaper. But this is the deck that has a lot of flexibility when it comes to a price point. You're not just stuck on it. You can pretty much build the main deck and then adjust it as time goes on. You can add to it. And that's something that I always look at when it comes to these decks. I look at different price points, but I also look at what you could do in the future, not just right now. Like with Synchrons, you have a lot of flexibility across builds. Dynamis, there's a lot of room to actually grow the deck out, make it a little bit better, play your own tech, whatever it is. You can fit in Dynamis, and that's what I always like about Dynamis. They're really cool and they protect each other. And besides that, they look like freaking Dinobots from Transformers, so they get a nod. My number 8 pick is Satellar Knights. It's not for everyone. Satellar Knights are definitely not for everyone. The main reason it's not for everyone is because it's a really heavy back row deck that plays slow. I'm not trying to stall anyone who plays it. The deck plays really slow. It does have a great matchup against Cosmos, and it is fairly semi-competitive right now, so you can still win. You're probably going, well, how the hell do I get over the Cosmo matchup? When they have the spaceships out, you just go Trivia and you bounce it back, or you could just put Quaking Mirror Force and then just, snipe it back in. Something like that. There's plenty of ways. You just gotta get a little bit creative. No, in all seriousness, this is a deck that the price point for you can either be really cheap, or you can build as you go. So there's a lot of flexibility between the builds when it comes to the trap cards. Monster-wise, you're pretty much going to run the standard 10. It's not too much tech there, and the spells are pretty much the same boat. But the trap lineup, you have a flexibility of what you're comfortable with, what you can afford, and that's why it works out great at number 8. Number 7, Despots. Despots are pretty much a really heavy OTK deck, but they do it like no one's business, and they're little machines, so you gotta be careful with Cyber Dragon into Chimera Tech, which is pretty common. But for that game 1, you're gonna just wreck people in the face if they ain't ready for Despots. And Despots just come out, and you make one screw up against Despots, they're going to win against you. They will absolutely decimate the floor with you. And they are a deck that, honestly, you could probably build for about $40, maybe $50. You don't really 100% need the extra deck, so there's that too. But moving on. Number 6, Kaiju Greydell. I'm technically mentioning 2 decks, but 2 decks that can be combined together. Greydell are monsters that steal other monsters. Basically, when they die, you steal your opponent's monster. And Kaiju you're tributing your opponent's monster to give them a kaiju, but then you take it back. Owner Seal, the Grey Dell, the Yosenju. There's plenty of ways to actually look at both of these decks. So we're actually mentioning two. I'm actually cheating here. Kaiju, I'll talk about first. Big, giant Godzilla-like monsters that do tribute for your opponent, and they're all rare outside of a few of them. And the supers and like the, I think there's an ultra for them. They're all about $2 a piece. So the price is going to stay relatively low. And Grey Dell, everything's common except their synchro, which again, it's not expensive at all. So put both of those together, you get a really amazing deck that has a lot of support and plenty of flexibility when it comes to going against games, different decks. So there's plenty of work with there. My number 5 pick is a deck that I like to consider rogue, but a lot of people are always like, you gotta put it on a meta list. It's not meta, but it is still competitive. It's Black Wings. And this deck, honestly, still to this day, is one of my favorites to run. Because I own it, I play it every single day pretty much when I'm playing like just for myself, not for the channel. But Black Wings are just a fun deck to pick up and go. They're really simple, but that simple little plays can be added on to a lot more complexity. They're pretty, straightforward. I can search, I can disrupt my opponent, I could throw monsters at them, I could burn them for 800. They have everything. Now the biggest problem that comes with Black Wings is when a new player picks them up and doesn't know what Black Wings are good and what Black Wings are bad, because Black Wings have been around so long that you pretty much know there's a giant list that say these Black Wings suck and these Black Wings are good and these Black Wings actually make pretty good tech cards. So there's 3 categories for them, like Shura, Bora, Chris, couldn't remember him, Kalut, Gale, Blizzard. Those are all pretty much staples, but bad is pretty much a lot of the anime stuff that isn't really going to help you in the real game. And I guess you can count Sirocco as okay tech, but Vayu is just leagues out of here at this point. But there's plenty of ways to build Black Wings. You're not just stuck on one thing. They are wing beasts. They are dark, so you can play Dark Arm if you so choose it. Not that I would recommend it, but you still can play Dark Arm. There is that option. My number 4 pick is, I'm moving through this list pretty quick because a lot of the stuff we have to record for the weekend. Magicians. Pendulum Magicians. One of the best decks you could play right now is Pendulum Magicians. And I'm not saying that because I run a Dark Magician version, but you could actually play the Dark Magician version. This is I'm counting just Pendulum Magicians in general. There's a lot you can do with them. You can go back, play a lot of the level 7s that were never really good. Mechanical Hound, Mist Valley, Apex Avion. It was cool in like theory, but getting it out was a pain in the ass, but now it's really easy. So there's that. And honestly, they are one of the best decks to disrupt your opponent, to set up OTKs, to just drop monsters on the board. And I know some people are probably going to go, Pendulums ruined the game. Play Solemn Warning on a Pendulum Summon, they all go to hell and there's nothing left. Play Bottomless, they all go and there's nothing left. You disrupt your opponent so easily, it's not even funny to go against it. Now, Magicians do have, of course, the one magician that can discard Pendulum and pop a card in the field. They do have access to Royal Decree, to Twin Twisters. There's plenty of different versions to run. You're not just stuck on the one version. There's the Magispectre version. There's the straightforward Magician Pendulum version. There's the Dark Magician version, which I always post on the channel. There's the Odd Eyes version. There's the Pepe version, what's left of Pepe, into Magicians, which is makes for a great deck too. And you can just get creative and put other stuff in there. I mean, the sky is the limit when it comes to actually running Magician Pendulum. So keep that in mind. Definitely give them a look if you haven't ever looked at them. And now we are at the final 3. One of my favorite 3 budget decks. It's extremely, well, it's a little bit higher on the price list, but it's still extremely cheap to build, is Ying Zing. Some of you are probably going, Ying Zing are slow. Let me tell you this way. And there's the reason I paused. Mermail, Burning Abyss, Monarchs, and Cosmos. You have great matchups against each one of those decks with Ying Zing. You don't need to go into your extra deck right away. They are extremely synchro focused. But you build to those plays. So the deck starts off really slow. And When they destroy your Ying Zing, you're going to get another Ying Zing. You're deck thinning. And you have a Pot of Avarice, which recycles 3 Ying Zing back to the deck, and you draw 2. And you take it from there. Then you have a card that gives you an extra Ying Zing when one of your monsters are destroyed. Then you have Dark Hole access, because when your monsters are destroyed, they don't care how they're destroyed. As long as they're destroyed, you're going to get another Ying Zing. It constantly goes. And then you have access to Skill Drain, because you have a Ying Zing that when you synchro with it, says, my monster is unaffected by trap cards. Then you have one that says, my monster is unaffected by spell cards. And don't even get me started on the one that gives it 500, or the Jatu of the Darkness, where you discard 2 Ying Zing cards from your hand and you bring 2 out from the deck and make a Boxia play immediately. Access to BLs. Access to any level 8s that you so choose. Access to Boxia, Yazi, Clearwing, Black Rose. You name it, this deck has access to it. It can drop a Leo that's unaffected by spells, traps, and gains 500 attack. That's already ridiculous. Now, if you flip up Skill Drain with that, remember, he's unaffected by traps at this point. No monster effects either. What are you going to do against that Leo? You're going to have to power over it. And there's not much that could power over something with 3600 attack without using an effect to jump over it. Even Utopia Lightning would get pooped on. So Ying Zings are one of those decks I always tell people you need to take another look at, because if you haven't, holy crap, you're missing out. This deck is amazing. My number 2 choice is Burning Abyss. And again, this is higher up on the price point. It's not nearly as cheap as the rest of these, but it is still amazing. For a deck that has been going for 2 years to still remain competitive, god damn. It gets a nod on the list because it deserves to be at number 2. Not just a nod, it deserves the number 2 spot. The main reason I put them at number 2 is due to their sheer power in the meta, their sheer capability of forever placing a hold on that meta for 2 straight years since they were released. Since they only had 3-4 cards, they've been in that game state. You want a deck that is going to stay around for a long time? Burning Abyss. You can combine them with Phantom Knights. You can combine them with Phantom Knights. It's always fun. But they have their own Icarus attack. They have Dante, who constantly recycles things. Grind games go forever. They're TCG exclusive. And you're probably sitting there going, god damn, I hate Burning Abyss. Yeah, I can understand why, but they are still an amazing deck that you should give a look at if you're looking at budget decks. Now again, everyone's budget will differentiate from another's, so limit was 200 for this, and Burning Abyss is just pretty much under the 200. Now before I go to my number 1 choice, I would have mentioned Mermail because most of their stuff is cheap, but there is the one that is like $20-25 a piece, so there is that. And the extra deck stuff can run it up more than Burning Abyss. And Burning Abyss do have Dante coming in Gold Series, so I was looking at that too. But I will mention Mermail are an option if you have a higher end budget, just like Burning Abyss, there is that. And they are amazing. But, number 1 pick goes to Monarchs. Mega Monarchs. You want a deck that is really competitive, requires no extra deck, and just focuses on old school tributing? I got you. It's called Monarchs. The only problem is, you're not going to allow your opponent to play Yu-Gi-Oh! You're going to go through your deck massively ham, and you may suffer some brick hands once in a while, but there is that. Now, the builds differentiate between prices depending on which version you're running. Whether it be Standard, which comes out of the structure deck, and then you can add Dialos, or make a Caius, or Karaz, or the Super Quantum version, which uses red layers, which are about $20 a piece, blue layer, which are about $2, Emergency Teleport, which you're seeing at $15 right now a piece, which is $45 right there for those 3. So again, Monarchs still stay under that like $150-$200 price range, but it depends on which build you're running. You can pick up a build, play it for $30, and win a couple local games. Hell, you can even do like a $50-$60 version and just run with it. But a lot of people have been telling me, I haven't gotten around to fully testing it yet, and I still think the regular Monarchs are a little more consistent, but Super Quantum is a lot more consistent because the ability to use Emergency Teleport to get blue layer from the deck, to get that search for red layer, to tribute the blue layer out, recycle her back to the deck so you can emergency teleport again. They only pretty much run one blue layer. It's hilarious. So there's that. You know, there's a lot of different versions when it comes to Monarchs. You know, the old versions and the Mega. But we're talking about Mega. So, again, if you don't mind locking your opponent out, you just want to win games, Mega Monarch's the way to go. All 10 of these decks should actually be on your radar. You should give a look at. And any questions, just leave down in the comments below. Any decks I mentioned, leave down in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching this top 10. If you enjoy the content, you're new to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe. And if you're not new, then make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And I'm out for now. I will see you later. Peace!